Ever catch yourself wondering how stuff ends up on our shelves? Like, with all the talk about trade wars and tariffs, how do goods actually move around the globe?
It's a question more people are asking, that's for sure.
Right, so, big picture. China, Mexico, the US.
It's become a prime example of how things shift when tariffs get involved. Back in 2018, remember the US slapped those Section 301 tariffs on certain Chinese goods?
To make them pricier, encourage buying American, that whole thing?
Exactly. But what's fascinating is how companies adapt. You'd think those tariffs would just stop trade in its tracks. They found a huge jump in what the US is importing from Mexico. Meanwhile, direct from China imports, down they went.
Wait, so stuff's taking a detour,
Yeah.
like through Mexico. Is that even allowed?
That's where it gets interesting. The CNBC piece called it a backdoor approach. And guess what? It's totally legal. Key thing here is rules of origin. Every trade deal has them, and for us, it's all about USMCA. That's the US-Mexico-Canada agreement.
Okay, but how does that help get stuff from China to us?
To qualify for USMCA benefits, like lower tariffs, a product needs a certain amount of its, let's call them ingredients, actually originating in North America. It's kind of like that. To get that USMCA discount, enough of the product's got to be North American, not just the final assembly.
So there's incentive to actually make stuff in Mexico,
Yeah.
not just ship it through.
You got it. And it's happening across the board. That CNBC report, they pointed to USTR documents, whole lists of products hit by those Section 301 tariffs.
Electronics, medical supplies even?
Vehicles, yeah, they were all over that. See, just shipping a whole car over wouldn't work. Those rules of origin, they apply to parts too.
Oh, wow.
So some Chinese car companies might set up shop in Mexico, but it's a whole calculation, not so simple. Yeah, and for some, it pencils out. Cheaper to use enough Mexican parts, get that USMCA benefit, than pay those tariffs. Especially long-term thinking.
Man, it's global chess, isn't it? Moving these pieces around the board. But there's got to be a human side to this, right? Not just numbers.
Absolutely. This impacts workers in both countries, plus us, the consumers. It's a big deal all around.
So trade triangles, tariffs, jobs. It's a lot to unpack. For folks listening, trying to connect the dots, what are the big takeaways?
I'd say 3 major things to remember. First off, trade. It's got this way of, well, finding a path. Like water, right?
Okay, I like that analogy.
Governments try to control things with tariffs, but businesses. They're clever, they adapt, sometimes in ways nobody expected.
So, unintended consequences, that whole deal.
Exactly. Second point, these shifts, they create winners and losers. Mexico, for example, could see a lot more manufacturing jobs coming their way.
Because companies are setting up shop there.
Right. But then you've got potential job losses here in the US, which that trade policy webinar folks will worry about that.
And what about us shoppers? Are we going to be paying more for, I don't know, our phones, our cars because of all this?
Tricky one. Some cases, prices might actually go down because companies are finding workarounds to keep costs low. But it's never that simple, is it? Got to look at the whole picture, the impact on the economy beyond just one product's price tag.
Right. Makes sense.
And that brings us to takeaway number 3. This goes way beyond just tariffs. Remember that White House memo?
Yeah, they were talking about solar panels, weren't they?
Among other things. Point is, there's a bigger strategy at play. Reshaping supply chains, not relying so much on one country, China, mainly.
So it's geopolitical too, not just economics.
Exactly. National security, tech competition, it's all tied together. High stakes, long game.
Makes you think.
Mhm.
If you were, say, that solar panel company, what would you do? Tough choices.
Tough indeed.
And we're the ones buying those solar panels or whatever it is. We're part of this system, even if we don't realize it. Wild, right?
Absolutely. It all connects.
Well, there you have it. A peek behind the curtain of global trade. Trade wars, those supply chains, and how the stuff we use makes its way to us. Crazy trip.
Never a dull moment.
Next time you're shopping, you'll see those products in a whole new light. Until then, thanks for diving deep with us.